Welcome, everybody, to a special episode of the Gym Life Podcast. We're going to call this episode The Hot Seat. And Tyler Purdue, promoter of the Pro Strongman League, PSL, was kind enough to reach out to me to want to join me on a show to discuss the evolution of the Pro Strongman League after my review. So thank you, Tyler, for doing that. See, nobody's ever done that before. And they all just want to talk shit and say, fuck Joe, he doesn't know about anything. But you were like, hey, listen, if Joe doesn't know, then there's probably a lot of other people out there that don't know either. So let's have a conversation about it and talk about the evolution of PSL moving forward and a little bit about this first show and some things that you're going to be doing moving forward to, create the league that you want to create the promotion that you want to create. So thanks for joining me today. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Great to be on here and looking forward to it.
You know, it's funny, Tyler. I always preface a lot of my conversations about any one of these organizations, any one of these athletes out there. In a large part, we're all in lockstep. We want to grow the sport. We're all friends out there. So it puts us in a very difficult position right now, the truth and honesty of some things sometimes, because oftentimes we kind of create our own narrative when it comes to thinking about these shows or thinking about promotions or thinking about athletes, and sitting down and having a good dialogue about things is kind of where we get things cleared up sometimes. There's some questions about the 64s that I'm going to talk about to you a little bit that I think that I was curious about. Then we reached out to a lot of the general strongman public and asked them a few questions as well. And I got a few really, really good questions that more than likely you've heard 1,000 times as well and are prepared to, answer them. But let me just get your first take on the 64s. What was your take coming off that show before I get into any Q&A with you? How do you feel about the promotion? What was going through your mind kind of leading up to it? Just kind of give me the general take on it.
Yeah. I always say first and foremost, man, those 15 ladies, they showed up. They showed up to get down, and it was a solid show from start to finish. Lots of amazing performances. One of the biggest shockers was that, Ree didn't win a deadlift. Like, holy crap. If you told anybody that before that show, like, hey, Ree's not going to win this deadlift, like outright, people like, you're crazy. That just goes to show, like, anything can happen on game day. But the ladies, they showed up, man. They did the promotional work before the contest. They showed up. Everybody weighed in. Everybody followed the rules. We had a good time. There was great camaraderie. Like, it was infectious in that building for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Loved it. There was some definite things that were awesome. Like, we're going to keep going with that. And there was also, as every contest should be, there's some things like, hey, you know what? Like, that was, we could do better, for whatever reason. And we're going to do better moving forward. But as a whole, like, I think, all the ladies seem to enjoy the show. It seems to be getting overall some positive reviews from people I've reached out to, some constructive feedback like yourself, which is also fine. But overall, I think it was a great start for, like, new company, new show. Great start.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, like I said in my review, I said, it was very satisfying in large part because there's one thing that we can always guarantee with that type of lineup is going to be a great competition when it comes to the type of athletes that PSL is bringing into these events. Certainly no disappointment there. A few surprises, but that's good. That tells you that the competition's really, really good when one person's not running away with an entire show. It's a very, what do you want to call it? There's a lot of parity in strongman right now and strong women. A lot of these athletes are getting so close in competitive abilities that it's just making for these international events, which the PSL is, you're inviting all these different athletes in from around the world to be a part of it. Meg Lotta coming all the way from New Zealand, which was a great representation. What a grinder she is. That was such a pleasure to watch her compete. Then, of course, Kate and Reed, off the top of my head, of course, two amazing athletes. And it was Reed that actually reached out to us on the rankings and said, why don't you have Kate Conley higher up in your rankings? I said, listen, this is all going to play out, and Lord did it ever. A beast there for sure, and we're going to look forward to some great competitions coming up in the future. But what were some of the items that you kind of pointed out, and I made reference to this in my review as well? More than likely, Tyler and his team are going through this show and taking notes during this first show as to things they want to tighten up. What were some of those things that you saw kind of immediately that, or should I say during that 3 or 4 hours of that show that you said, okay, we missed that, or we should have done this a little differently?
One of the biggest things that anybody that knows me knows, like, I'm pretty big on, like, the details and going over things and making things cover, like, and making things fair. And just straight consistency. And at the end of the day, anything that goes against that, no matter what individual, like, puts their hands on it, I take the accountability for it. It's on me. And one of the biggest ones that I'm sitting here thinking is on the odd object medley, and it's fourth event of the day. We're flying. Athletes are tired. Volunteers are tired. And there was a fire hydrant. And sometimes, like for the first couple of people, I was busy doing some things, but it would get set up straight. And the next time it'd be leaned over to the side.
Yeah.
Causing an inconsistency. And I'm just going to give a big shout out to Ree and the ladies for bringing that up. Bring a big, like, we've all been to contests and people will complain, like, hey, like that thing's not fair, but no one will say anything. Like, the best thing is to say something. And they brought it up and gave me a chance to make it right. But in the future, it's kind of, you can't expect what you don't inspect, is what I like to say. So it's got to be paying attention to that detail, causing a little bit of an inconsistency for people. For the first 4 athletes, it was one that that won't be happening again. Stood out to me pretty big. And then, couple of other things is just like, it goes back to, you can't expect what you don't inspect. Is, we had a great group of volunteers, hard workers. In certain times, like little things would be missed, or like people would like step in front of a camera, which we all know Don's about to like throw something at me from 50 feet away. Get out of the camera.
That's a fact. Yeah.
And I realized partway through, like, dang, like we didn't tape anything off, right? We didn't tape like points for people to stand, like don't cross this line or anything like that. And it led to some people getting in camera shots and that they weren't supposed to be, and it led Don educating me on, hey, we need to quit that. Yeah. And so that's like, we had a competition piece, we have the production piece, like, hey, you got to not do that. And whose fault is that? Right? It's not their fault. It's my fault. How do I prevent that from happening again? Those are probably two of the biggest ones.
Well, there's a lot of layers to that. I think we lose sight of that sometimes. The idea about promoting and being a former promoter myself and having done several strongman competitions back in the day, there are several layers to it all. Matter of fact, I can't even make that comparison from 10, 15 years ago to today, because there's so much more dynamic involved in these shows, particularly on information in the live stream, social media, all that kind of stuff that now as a promoter has to deal with that was never really there before. And you just mentioned it. One thing, working on a live stream, how do you make a live stream better? Well, first off, you hire the best company to do it, which you've done.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, you have to figure out then the logistics from it and how you can manage that set as best as you can for that live stream. And obviously, you're going to work that out with Don. Hell or high water, he's going to work that out with you. But yeah, you mentioned the fire hydrant, which is true, and that's the inconsistency, right? And that's more it's more to not create any sort of after effect drama, right? Because we know, I'm not suggesting any of these ladies would have ever done anything, but if a contest is decided by a half second or a medley that's a big thing. It's got to be consistent across the board. So I appreciate you pointing that out. I had a couple other questions, and one, I have to, of course, make an apology to the rest of the world out there, and I kind of did it on my review where I was questioning the 12-inch log, because I didn't know. I guess, and Luke kind of, he gave me a pass on it in our conversation off and DMing back and forth in our group, that we Americans take the 10-inch log as a part of our staple over here for women, in large part in the amateur portion of our sport, where the 10-inch log doesn't exist over in the UK. They only compete with a 12-inch log. I didn't know that. And then at the same time, I was thinking, as I was talking, right, that little voice in the back of your head, geez, was the 12-inch log record or the log record set on a 12-inch log? And it was. So anyhow, that question was answered very quickly after the release of that review. So in my apologies to you, sir, about the 12-inch log, because I had no clue. Now, I will say, boy, that still seems like it buries those girls, but it's the right thing to do. So my apologies there.
It happens, man. Like, I say, this is what I'll say from our information standpoint. Like, we could have done a better job explaining this is what we're doing and why we're doing it, so people didn't have to have questions. Or done a little bit better job educating. My big concern was like, Kate earned the record on a 12-inch log, and I didn't want anybody thinking that she did it on anything different than what she did.
Right.
She earned it, man. And I'll give these ladies credit. That log is big.
Man.
They mostly seemed excited about it. Like, they just attacked it.
They're all professional, strong women. Whatever that means, right? I mean, a lot of them earned it, and some of them are just there, and by default, they're professionals because they're competing at the level, and they're competing at the Pro Strongman League, which I've made perfectly clear to a lot of people out there, just in private conversation. The word or the acronym Pro Strongman League, as explained by you, is a professional strongman league, meaning you're presenting a a promotion that's professional on all levels, and ultimately I love that definition because it's not just the athletes that represent professionally, quote unquote, but also the intangibles like the judging and the commentating and the announcing and the promotions and the live stream. So I love that. It's holding yourself accountable on all levels of this competition to be professional. And I think that that's a great acronym for this community moving forward. We all should look at that and lead with that. I just wanted to throw that in there real quick because ultimately that's what you're doing, and I appreciate that. I have a question for you about record verifications, right? This was brought up. This is a good question. Yeah. Because we know that I think it was Taylor Woods and got the Canadian national record at the show. And then you had Meg Lotta break the New Zealand national record at the show. So there was 2 records that were broken. Are those verified records? How does that work necessarily in international competition? Are we weighing these implements? There's a couple questions about that. Not that anybody doubts that these women aren't capable of doing it, but what are we doing on PSL's level to ensure that these records are actual records when it comes to verifying weight?
Yeah, most definitely. I think we start with verifying the record first because you want to make sure that's right before anything else.
Right, fair enough.
And I've always had a rule, like I will hear the athlete that's going for the record and what they think it is, and I will always verify with somebody else who ideally doesn't have a dog in the fight from that country. Like I told all the ladies, like, I'm responsible like to know American record. I'm responsible to know them all.
Sure.
But, like,
yeah.
I'll work on America and I'll work on the world. But like we got Canada, we got New Zealand, like we got all these countries. So I'm gonna reach out to the people in those countries and ask and verify, like just to make double sure that it is what it is. I even actually did tell them, hey, this is on a 12-inch log. If you go home to Canada, Taylor, and somebody breaks it on a 10-inch log and they count it, don't come at me.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah. Talking to like Sam and Max up there for the Canadian record, for example, just making sure it is what it is. Holly had it. And then, we logs got weighed, plates got weighed.
Yeah.
And the plates that got weighed got taken out there.
Gotcha.
Right? So you can reasonably know like this log weighed X, this weighed Y. And that's actually, we fixed, we clarified with Taylor and Strongman Corp Canada with Sam and Max that the Taylor's log was actually 207.5 pounds, not 205.
Oh, okay.
Which we would have also done if it was 202.5, right? But it was actually heavier. In my head, I knew what the weight was. I didn't hear what it was on the live stream because I can't hear it.
That's good to know. That's great to know. So these women essentially broke the records with a bit more weight on the bar.
Yep. It was literally 2.5 pounds onto that over.
Oh, good.
What the live stream had said. And that's on me, right?
No, and that's fine. I think from that perspective, I don't think anybody will ever complain about that. Then ultimately it's corrected at the end of the show. Record still stands. Oh, by the way, surprise, surprise, it's actually more than you think it is. And shit, I'm happy to hear that, actually. I think one of the biggest sort of elephants in the room when it comes to our entire global strongman community is record keeping. We talk about this all the time. It's probably the last thing on everybody's mind because not so many people ever get a chance to attempt a record, but it's something I know there's some people working on right now to kind of collectively bring this together a little bit more with information that we can all be aware of.
And I think it's definitely long overdue in the sport as a whole.
Yeah.
And the longer that we leave it and don't touch it, the more the stands are just going to be more and more gray and blurry. And
oh God, yeah. Yeah, it is. And it's necessary. Listen, we all love that. And I think sometimes in strongman, especially those of us who are inundated with it and up to our knees in it day after day, like you and I are and the athletes and everybody else, is we don't think about what the spectators in this community coming into our sport want to be a part of. And people love records. They do. Absolutely. You hear some people, we don't need records. Well, we do, because if we want a bigger audience to love our sport, these are great like resume pieces that we want to hear about these athletes to become more familiar with how great they are, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So another one for you, since we're on to implements here. We'll just go right through the implements. The power stairs. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if the power stair should ever be zirkered to truly be a power stair. What happened there? I get it. These women are very short in stature. Yeah, I think your stair was a 17-inch stair, which is, I think, standard across the board as far as I know. I don't know if there's any implement standards there, maybe for PSL creating their own standard, or is that something that when you're building these pieces that you're kind of collaborating with other minds and other organizations, maybe across the board? How do you determine that? And then ultimately, was there an issue there with that stair in hindsight, going back to not only how the ladies were zerkering it, but the narrowness of the stair as far as the platform goes? Or was that just more of a one-off with Deanna Ferrer when she loaded her implement and fell off the back?
Yeah, man. The stairs were 17 inches, and I'm just going to give a big shout out to Doug Madewell.
Great. Yeah, they look fantastic.
He made awesome equipment, and he actually had the stairs made. And about a week before the contest, his trailer with the stairs, like he had packed it up, ready to drive it across the country, got stolen. So he got spent his whole weekend making another set of stairs to the same quality that everybody. So we had it. And Doug won't tell the world about this, but I'll tell the world for Doug, man. That's top notch. And I frankly, I don't see an issue with the stairs.
No, let me stop you there real quick, and I don't mean to interrupt, but just to be clear, I'm just more or less trying to understand what the standard is. I have no problem with the stairs. Doug is he's the guy fabs better than anybody out there. I know that for a fact. I'm just curious as to how we determine height and how we determine width. I know we just take it for granted when we see things like power stairs. I'm sure probably Doug has probably got that information right in front of him, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Doug does, but I mean, I asked him for the dimensions. 17-inch height, and then the what is it? The width, not the depth of it, right? Is 18. And that's, I mean, I've been on a lot of power stairs. I've measured a lot of power stairs. Could the depth be 20? Could be, right?
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that. There's not a standard. There's standard axle. There's standard deadlift weight. There's standard bars.
Yeah.
I do think it was, unfortunately, a one-off with Deanna. I talked to her about it.
Yeah, I believe it.
Too. And it's just kind of like, hey, look, 15 people went, which means 30 implements got loaded total, right? Because 2 per, and 1 fell over.
Yeah.
It happens. It's happened to some great competitors where I've said it shows way in the past. Hey, if you put this up there and it falls off, front, back, side, whatever, you got to go get it. Yeah. And it just happens sometimes, and it does.
Yeah, it was a one-off for sure, and I don't really. I was just curious from your position as sort of the the head dog here with PSL, determining maybe moving forward with any particular change. So that's not a change you would make. I understand that. I know some organizations will put a backstop. Some people will. That's just not something you're concerned with, and I'm okay with the answer. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious.
There could be moving forward.
Is it something? What's that?
There could be like a little lip, perhaps.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Something that, I'm
just asking. Yeah.
When I ask,
not complaining, just asking. I would ask you, however, though, this is a prying question with a lot of people. Will zerkering the power stair be permitted moving forward? Because are we talking about a different way to do this event now? Right. Some purists out there are going, okay, that's just not a power stair at that point. Why don't we just put all the weights in front and just zerker them up and make everybody zerker them at that point? What's your thoughts on that? I get it. It's kind of one of those things that we never thought we'd see at such, and we really saw it with 4 or 5 girls, and I'm just curious. Is it just the 64s because they're short in stature, or is this something that we won't allow at all moving forward, or is it something you don't care about?
It's something that's definitely in the after-action review just to see. Because I never saw it until America's Strongest Woman, Kira, got an injury. She did it.
Yeah,
I don't imagine I'm going to have to tell any of the 105 men you can't zercher this.
No, that's what I'm getting at.
I might actually challenge them to zercher it, right?
And that's what I'm saying. By itself, that event could be pretty fucking cool if you think about it, with all these guys out there zerchering everything right now in training. But it's not a true power stair at that point, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a true OG power stair. And we just have to determine as a group, like, where do we draw the line, right? Strongman, do it however you need. We at a certain point, people started shouldering stuff, and it kind of lives. So we have to see. Like, it definitely opened my eyes. We've never seen it before. I was like, hey, cool. Yeah. This is something that right in the middle, you can't go, hey, no, you guys can't do that. I didn't really think anyone was good. I didn't really think about it during rules and all that. Like, hey, some of these women may or may not zercher them up. I also said, like, if you want to stop the zerchering, get Johnny, can never say Johnny Wazico's last name right. He makes great power stairs. You're not zerchering those because they have a big bell around them, and nobody can fit their arms in there. So that's one thing, right? Do we just make the implements to where it's not possible?
Yeah, I guess. It really was an interesting thing. It certainly started some conversation amongst the masses out there, and I love that, of course, doing what I do. I'm like, let's talk about this. Very nitpicky, I know. Very, very. I said that on the whole show the other day. I was like, well, listen, I'm going to nitpick here because I had to. Listen, I understand the natural progression of any new promotion. And although you have great experience in all these other promotions out there that you've been a part of, anytime you fire off a new promotion, still a learning curve involved with the logistics of it all. So to not say that PSL was a good event would be the wrong thing to say, because it was really a satisfying event. The competitors always make the event in the end. I think guys like me, and there's some other people out there that pay closer attention to the little details like yourself, so we have an easier time kind of identifying them, but nitpicky for sure. But these are good questions. One of the questions was brought up about the live stream. I'm not sure what happened there, but there were no final ceremony awards that just kind of shut off. What happened there? Was it just what happened? I don't even know what happened.
Yeah, really, I'm going to go back one step for the nitpickiness, and I've said this for a decade. When you decide, no one like holds a gun to your head and said you have to promote a show at any level. You decide to promote a show, you got to take the good that comes with it and the not so good. And the not so good is somebody's going to have a problem. Somebody's going to complain. Somebody's going to nitpick, and you just got to accept that. Like, I've accepted that. People are going to.
Yeah,
and I would encourage anyone else.
Sure.
Exactly. Because it's going to happen. But yeah, as far as the live stream goes, working with ADO, I would have to double check with Don with this, but I do not believe and I've watched plenty of their broadcasts over the time they've been in the sport. I don't know if they have ever filmed the awards.
That's a good question, and I should know this answer because I've worked with Don and I just can't remember. And it's not actually a knock on you or Don, because if that in fact is the case, I had some people reach out to me as a question, like, what happened to the final award ceremony? Yeah. Is that something, if it didn't exist prior, is that something that you would consider putting in? I get it. It does extend the live stream out because there's a lot of downtime between final event and award ceremony. But is there some fill in there you're thinking? I know from a logistics point of view, or I should say a production point of view, with Don and ADL moving forward, I'm sure you guys are going to create a lot of cool different opportunity to really live stream this event. Is that going to be a part of it moving forward? Some different components to the production as opposed to just the events and, you know.
Don and I talk on a regular basis. Usually it's him telling me that I need to learn this stuff and get better at that, which I love to death.
Yeah.
This is what I would ask is, if 500 people watch, how many people would have actually stayed to watch the events?
I mean, I get it,
pretty high level shows, and I've seen crowds just filter out after that, because we're in everyone knows who won at this point in the sport. And I believe I watch crowds filter out. So it's kind of like we talk about it. Don gets to make the decision on that sort of thing.
Yeah.
For sure. But it's something we can talk about. But I don't know that they ever film.
I don't know either. That's a great question. I ask you the question and then ask the question to myself whether or not I've seen it either. I think we see it, maybe take it for granted because we'll see it on WSM or something like that as a part of the overall cut and finish production, which makes it very easy. Yeah, but from a live stream that's running from point A to point B nonstop, that could be a difficult thing to throw in logistically. But I will say, I don't care how many people are watching. Fuck, I had 3 people listening to this show when I first started. I always made it to the end. I didn't care. So, but in any case, I think that would add a cool layer. Personally, my opinion is, if there's somehow to get that done in a time frame that works, that would be a cool layer to it all, because we do like seeing those women get awards, and maybe even being able to say something to the general public, which everybody wants to get more acquainted with these girls, and that victory speech is always we enjoy hearing that from athletes across all sports spectrum. So I don't know, just something that came to the back of my mind for sure.
That's one thing I missed that the world won't know we missed unless we said it, but I was intending to have the podium finishers interviewed and then kind of posted onto the stories.
Yes.
And just toe drop ball on it. Was working on a couple.
Well, I'm glad you recognize that, because that was going to be my next question. I know moving forward, from a athlete information standpoint and being able to, and it's something I said on my show, I think as somebody who's an advocate for growing the sport, that information's critical for people to know it about our athletes, about their records, their resumes, their different accomplishments, in particular, maybe even their height and their weight, and all the information that we can get from a biography standpoint, where they're from. We see all these things. I get it. It's a growing process. I'm asking this question for more about the future. I would never anticipate that in the very first show. It would have blew my doors off. I couldn't even have a review show then, because I have nothing bad to say. So that's a little joke, by the way. I'm being overly critical. But information, that was going to be my next question, because I actually had that one myself. Having information about these athletes being more a part of the live stream, is that something PSL is going to produce to be able to hand over to the live stream? How does that dynamic work exactly? And is that something you're looking to get more involved? Athlete interviews, maybe like you said, post-show ceremonial type stuff, or at least that sort of how does it feel to win the show kind of thing.
Right.
What are you really thinking about there? Can you kind of give us a broader look at maybe moving forward what we might anticipate?
Most definitely. And this is one of the things that you could ask Don. Like, I threw so many things at them that I wanted to do, and it's they're fantastic making the world happen. We did have some ages and stuff like that. It just trying to fit all that in on a graphic was a bit much. It kind of looked like it was busy. So retrospectively, we need to look and be like, all right, how do we get this information out there? The weight, I mean, hey man, no one really cares who weighs what after they weigh in. They care. So I don't anticipate the weight being a thing. Like, hey, everybody, you got to come weigh in an hour before the contest. We're going to put your real weights out there now after you weigh in.
I'm just going bio stuff, but I get what you're saying.
For sure. We had a little, we also had country flags that we were planning on putting on the live stream, but I couldn't figure out. It was a file thing. I couldn't figure it out. That's my fault. But and then the other thing is, as I would say, like, if there wasn't information known about an athlete or a situation, it's ultimately on us. No matter why it wasn't, we need to figure out a way to get it out there. So the production, the camera angles, the commentary, the information, the times and the durations that these things last, and kind of the time it's got to be on, is going to be a constant conversation. And what I would really like to have, I mean, you can see it across a lot of sports, right? Is someone's name, where they're from, their Instagram, their age, their country, and whatever throws like a hometown, and then the country. That's like my perfect picture. And if Don listens to this, he's probably gonna be like, "Oh my God, he's talking about flags again." But and then being able to not just supply information to commentators, if someone's going to do interviews, to whatever, the in-person MC, which I think Adam Geiger is one of the best out there.
Oh, I loved it. By the way,
it's not just supplying information, but then a little bit of like I won't say training or education, but like kind of coaching people up that are going to be supplying that information on the kind of the wins and the how much, and don't spend more than like 30 seconds or whatever. Don't go into a 10-minute monologue about a specific record that one person has, kind of thing. Kind of helping coach and grow the whole team, because at the end of the day, ADL is part of the team, the commentators are part of the team, the volunteers, the judges, like everybody's part of one team. So how can the team coach those people up and make them better, and also deliver, which I think we did a decent job at this with the scoring system that we had built. Is scores were getting inputted. It was actually, if you watch on the live stream on my phone, I was inputting the scores on my phone the whole time. I was just going around getting the scores, and it was going right to the CJ had a laptop, so it should have been showing up right in front of him the whole time. So at least the scores were pretty front and center. And the next step to that is to actually have that displayed on the live stream as it's happening live. Like, it should shift and change so you can see when someone's going up for whatever, what place everybody's in. That is the next iteration.
By the way, that's a great point. I did really appreciate the scoring on the show. I like that. It was nice. It was left. The graphic was up there long enough so I can take a good long peek at it. That was definitely. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think I mentioned it on my show, or if I didn't, it was a thought that we sometimes take it for granted. Again, those who are inundated in the sport, that we know a lot about these athletes. We know a lot about these these promotions and these events and stuff. We take it for granted because we're just immersed in it. But for somebody who's like yourself and others out there that want to grow this sport, we need to almost dumbify things to the point where we're giving out so much information, because we want to never take it for granted there's somebody's watching the show that doesn't know anything about strongman, that we can hope they can gain their interest. And I think that's kind of what does it. We draw these correlations between athletes and regular people, and I think that's how we find to be fans of a certain sport, is because we gravitate towards maybe certain individuals in a different way, and we become fans, and all of a sudden we want to get on every live stream and watch them and meet more people and understand the sport even more. The natural evolution, of course, but I do definitely understand the logistical nature of things. Again, having the opportunity to work with ADL a few times and understand even how difficult that is. It's easy to talk about, but when you talk about the logistics of getting graphics, the how you're going to, like you said, coordinate those with your team, How do you put together a team that's cohesive, that understands all the little intangibles, how they need to be done, what the kind of the general guidelines of getting these things done, and the information out there to everybody from the MC, from the announcers, judging, scoring, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a difficult task for sure. Nobody's more capable of it than an experienced promoter like yourself, however, but certainly to throw that in somebody's lap immediately and say, hey, why isn't this done? I think that's asking a little bit much because there is a growth process here.
And there are some really good examples of promotions that do that do well at it to model after for sure too, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Which leads me to my next question. Where do you, and this is a general question that was asked in a bunch of different ways, but you've got a lot of experience in promotions, and when PSL kind of entered the scene in an announcement, oh boy, what was it? Probably 6-7 months ago. Maybe not. Maybe sooner than that. It might have been 5 months ago. Yeah. It wasn't too long ago, anyhow. Yeah. What is the grandiose idea for PSL to separate PSL from, just everything else, Tyler? There's got to be. What's the golden egg here with PSL? What are we really trying to do?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it always has me reflect back to the very first promotion I had any part in. Over 10 years ago now. Helping run shows back in a little town. But, in a little bit of like, I kind of stopped promoting shows for just a little bit because I was like, how was going? It just wasn't doing it. And, I wanted to see some things different, and I'll get into what. I wanted to see some things different. I wanted athletes to have a little bit of a different experience that was going on. And I was like, either I need to shut up and stop complaining about something or do something about it. And, so as I was to do something about it, one of the biggest things for the weight classes in the sport that I have wanted for a long time now is recognition and the ability to build their brand and have like a platform that's just for them. And that's going to be like kind of one of the center points of what PSL is trying to do and our team is trying to do is one contest for like a weight class. So that way there's 15 people. It's really a lot less to get media. It's a lot less to get exposure. It's to help them build their brand and provide when there's 15. I got nothing but love for people that run shows with hundreds of people. That's a whole nother beast on its own. The big picture goal, and I've said this, I've spent a lot of time around kind of the top level of the sport in the opens. And I want to bring that experience over time to the rest of the sport so that you don't have to be an open class athlete to get that. And I think there's some promotions, the Arnold doing a great job, or Rogue bringing the women in, Giants Live, you see that, bringing the women in. And I love that for the opens. I want the same thing for the weight classes. And we're talking big picture goal again, right? This is not happening tomorrow. Substantial prize money, travel, flights, food stipend, and just the stuff I've seen and been a part of, like being backstage. Like I want to bring that to these levels where it's not being done right now. One of my favorite things that I tried is, I just tried it, right? Because we're warming up, whatever. People always been poking around curtains, like they're trying to see, or they just miss it, depending on what competition they're at. And I just was like, hey, Don, can we fire a signal to a TV in the warm-up room so they can see what's going on? They can follow, they can track, they can plan while they don't. But without having to like go out of their zone and like try to poke their head around or go in the crowd. And I went back there a couple times and I'm like, oh, they're just watching TV. So it was pretty cool. They all enjoyed it. But those are the little things that I can bring right now. And then over time, like I said, substantial prize money, travel, food stipend, hotel, the whole 9 yards, better media, getting a camera crew to like help them build each individual's media, and then actually being able to, I think World Championships Man does great. They got a photographer there taking pictures, and there's a drop box they give during the competition. Like that's wonderful. And that's the overall goal, to have that exact kind of promotion, that exact kind of experience for all of the athletes that come and compete.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of room for growth there too. I love that, because ultimately, even what WSM, which you just alluded to, even they're awesome with what they do. But yeah, there's so much more growth with idea and just new sort of paths that you can take that media down with these athletes to grow our sport. So I love that. And I really love the fact too that you mentioned, and something I've kind of overlooked even in my own thoughts. You're right. The one thing that a smaller show brings, when you can do it, because we know that the cost stays the same whether you have one person or 50 people. I mean, ultimately you're having to find more resourceful ways to promote a good show with a smaller athlete pool, which is not an easy task. That's a whole nother show. I'm sure we'll talk about that someday. But to be able to bring the attention, it's that small classroom mentality. I can give you more attention if there's fewer of you competing. I'm going back and forth here, but I've got another question for you. This actually came in with one of the people on the Instagram when I reached out to everybody. What is the qualifying for PSL? When are we getting back into that? How are you finding these athletes right now? I get the 64s were kind of done ahead of time. I understand. Boy, this is going to be a multi-layer question, so bear with me. I understand, like, for instance, the Masters show that we were doing in conjunction with Central States has kind of been in place from an athlete standpoint there for a while. PSL, branded or co-promoting that to some degree or affiliating with Chad Coy out there. But in the future, how are you coming up with your athlete lineups at these shows? Is there a qualification that you're going to be requiring in the future, and what should some of these athletes be expecting?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one that we've been getting, and I've been answering as much as I could because I don't want to promise something we don't know. For some of these contests, there's no like PSL shows from before or whatever to say you qualify. So I tell there's a lot of invites going out right now.
Gotcha. So it's an invitational right now, is what you're saying.
For the most part, right now it is. Take for future like Rhiannon, Kate, Sherry, they qualify for next year's 64 show. And then we're taking the winner of each show, and they're actually qualifying in addition to the next weight class up. So there's some announcements on what the next weight class up will be for Rhiannon, but they'll qualify for 2 shows, right? Because you qualify for that one, and then you for the one up.
Okay.
There are, Norway was a contest. Kiki and Iga, I think we all heard how they're just fantastic. They're already on board for next year. Working on the contest in Shenzhen in China. There's going to be some in-person qualifiers that information is coming very early next week. There are also some amateur shows that are happening. We'll take the 90s. There's an amateur show happening with that, before it, at the same day. And the equivalent 90 kilogram weight class, 198 pounds, the winner of that amateur one will qualify for the next year's the pro show. There's also going to be obviously online qualifiers. And there's some ongoing conversations that are looking really promising for some different countries and different avenues.
Okay.
And, different weight class shows. Like I intend on inviting, there's a fantastic show that happens in Paris every year for 105s. I fully intend on inviting some of the top finishers from that show to the 105 show we're doing. There's a nice, it's messy right now of how you get to where. But by the end of this coming week, by the end of the month was my goal. So basically the end of the week.
Okay. Yeah. It sounds like there's a lot of these just to kind of see it all kind of come together so we can make sense of it. But it doesn't sound like you're leaving any stone unturned, which I love to hear. A lot of different avenues to kind of get to a PSL event, which is cool. I hate it when it's very limited because there should be more opportunity for international competitors. It sounds like you got a hold of that pretty well with these outside events and also making some of these shows qualifiers.
Yeah, doing the best we can. There's one in Canada happening early July. It's Western Canada's strongest, I want to say. But there's several out there. It's kind of been how do we get that information out there, but how do we also put out all the 64s and give them their due justice? All of it at the same time is how do we? And, I'm sure we could have done a better job with some of it, but the qualifying show, the calendar, if you will, or the schedule will be out by the end of the month. So each weight class.
With that said, when's the website going to be up for everybody?
Are
we working on that right now? I mean, how close are we? Because I know a lot of this information. It's a lot of information to share, right? We can't just rely on Instagram to get it all out there. No. But have you been working on that?
Yes. So the website was up, and then it wasn't kind of the best. Is a standard website that I want based on information, right? So people helping me build it have done great. It didn't have all the information how I wanted it because I wasn't able to provide it. So I actually just knocked it down. within the next week, we're going to have it back up. That way, when someone goes to it, it's an accurate representation of what's going on, rather than this thing that's got a lot of placeholders and like, hey, coming soon, because that's not accurate anymore. So it's another on my calendar by the end of the month.
Okay. Yeah, just curious. I had some people ask that when they're asking questions about PSL and kind of where to find this information in one general spot. Sounds like a website's an easy way to do that, of course.
Yes.
Instagram's helpful. We get that. Which, oh, by the way, one credit I didn't give PSL, the group, was the fact that you guys are doing great with your social media. I understand your awesome judge is kind of leading that IG account for you, which I think is great. Corey Butler, am I right?
Yeah, we have Corey Butler and Uncle Nick, and then we actually have another guy, Patrick, that's doing some of the animations and cool
Nick
stuff.
Myers, by the way, everybody out there, Uncle Nick, in case you don't know. Yeah,
they're doing great. Corey is a core part of it. Nick, Patrick, they're doing great. Okay. I hardly ever do anything with it.
I've been very pleased by that myself. I know a lot of people have. I think probably one of the easiest things out there that it seems promoters don't do, which is just blows my freaking mind, is that they don't utilize social media like they should. And I give you guys a check mark to say you check that box. I think we've seen more from PSL probably in the last couple months than we see from most organizations or promotions in an entire year. So I know that's getting better and better. I love the athlete clips that you put out. I love some of the competition clips. I just think it really kind of completes the picture a little bit. And it's not just when the show's over, you're done talking about these athletes. What I appreciated was throughout the week, we've still been seeing things about these athletes, not only in how they competed, but some of their training clips, things of that nature. I just think it's worth mentioning. I think we should all be thankful for that. And I hope more people out there that are promoting out there are listening to this and get the fuck on board, for God's sake. It pisses me off, man. So, yeah, kudos to you for the social media so far. It looks like it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, no, appreciate that, man.
Let's see. Where can I go from here? Well, we did talk about Corey and Nick and some of the others that are kind of affiliated with PSL, this team that you've put together, essentially. I've been making mention of it now for, several months, really. That was one of the key components of me backing PSL as an organization, or giving you the check mark of let's do this. I mean, not that it matters for me, but I think all of us were excited because of the people you had involved. There's a lot of good people in the sport. We appreciate the hell out of them. We know drama can be all over the sport of strongman. So anytime we get together a collective that we all can kind of gravitate towards as good individuals and good humans, we're excited, of course. Right. Nick, obviously, Corey, all the others that you have on board with you, and I'm not ADL. I'm not going to name them all off, but these are all people that know their positions very, very well. You've brought them together. How is that moving forward for you in creating your team? Commentating, let's say, emceeing. Do you plan on trying to use the same people, or having a group of people, a pool that you can work with moving forward? Do we expect to see more of CJ and Katera in the future in certain demographics? Are we going to see other people in other demographics? Are you going to move people around to continue branding not just PSL, but the group that you're a part of?
Yeah, that is the big goal. There's some logistics that may get in the way of it happening sometimes, but as a whole, I would like for it not to just be me at a show from our team. We've got Bo, who flies under the radar like crazy and is one of the best right hand men you could ever find. You got Nick, you got Corey, you got Bobby.
Bobby, let's not forget Bobby.
Sure. I don't know how you can put together like a better team. Honestly, they're great.
Yeah.
The goal is for you to see somebody else besides just me at these shows as a part of the team in some sort of capacity. Different people got different scheduling issues that might prevent them from being able to come at this point. We got to work around it, but that's the goal, is to build the team. It's not to build me.
Isn't that crucial though, Tyler? Isn't that crucial to the brand? I mean, when I think about this from the big picture, I mean, you've got, again, you mentioned earlier that we want to get everybody on the same page with information, and to think for a second that you're almost turning over PSL, and to no knocking anybody out there, I'm just going to play devil's advocate, to grab a promoter, because this will lead to my next question, who, however your qualifications are, we'll go over that in a minute, and basically give him this PSL baby, if you will, and say, oh, now take care of it on all of our behalves. Make sure you get the right people in place, because you're the one stuck holding the bag if that shit falls apart. For sure. I would be super nervous about that. To me, I would think that's got to be a top priority for you to move your team around as soon as possible in order to ensure the wheels don't fall off this wagon.
Most definitely. And I would never, how do I say, I would never put somebody in a position to represent the brand that I didn't trust to do their part. And that's Chad Coy he's representing the brand. I got nowheres,
I
zero.
don't think anybody does. That's a good choice. Yeah, love Chad.
Big
Yeah.
Nick out in LA with House of Power, no worries,
Okay.
no worries at all. And then the other ones are promoted by me. So this season has got everybody's in place. I feel good about the local promoters. And then I feel good about our team and our travel plans of who's going where and who can do what.
There's definitely some great resumes built with the people you're working with already, which I love. I mean, listen, we it's easy to pick out the good apples, if you will, the people that know what they're doing, have been a part of the sport, have proven themselves in promotions. Nobody better example of that than Chad Coy, obviously.
Absolutely.
But I like to hear that. I know PSL, as I'm talking in third party here, you of course, and PSL the group, promoting some other shows that are just standalones. We know that. I think Baltimore is one of them, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that right? Or is it Virginia?
By the end of this month, none of them will be standalone contests.
Okay. They won't. We're going to have outside involvement.
To an extent, yeah. The weight classes will stay the primary focus, but there will be some other stuff going on with all of them.
Okay. So, boy, that's a hell of a teaser, Tyler. I just caught you off guard with that. Is that all you got for me? You can't give me a little more information than that?
I mean, we'll put it this way. I mean, part of it is some stuff still has to get signed and put in place. Out in LA, there's a couple other things going on to come into the contest. I mean, too, with Chad, Central is there. There's a jiu-jitsu tournament. There's an amateur show.
Oh, I see. From a promotional standpoint, they're going to be a little bit larger than just maybe what the PSL part's going to be, is what you're saying. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I get that. Okay, I was thinking in a different direction here. All right, so I got a couple questions. I get it. A couple questions for you. Yeah, man, I think we kind of answered them all in a really good way. What criteria moving forward? We covered that. I'm just going to kind of talk to myself and go over notes. And what do you see from the PSL? We talked about that. These are some listener questions. You talked about how you're going to create PSL to be a different type of promotion. We talked about, again, qualifying and the clarity behind that, which you're going to bring to the forefront here in the coming weeks, a little bit more clear of a path for everybody. Certainly some international involvement, which I really like. Of course, we talk about this sport globally nowadays, and if we're not getting these global competitors involved, ultimately we can't be ranking shit, right? That's what we're doing now. We got this rankings, official strongman rankings, as you know. Which, of course, may be a part of this, Tyler. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. Maybe our rankings will qualify people someday. But will you have 90-kilogram men? Will you actually give them man's weight to press? That was one of them. Somebody said, will the 90 kg men get to actually press real weight? Is that going to be something on your mind?
You're going to have a heck of a press medley to do.
You know who that came from, right? Okay.
That's why I said, hey, Jacob, just finish it, man. That's what I want you to do.
Fair enough, right? I mean, look, I can't even believe he's asking that question. Come on, Jacob. The world's got eyes on you right now. Get qualified, will you?
Yeah, he's going
to be at the show. Is he? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Why can't you eat chicken breasts like a normal human?
I'm allergic to chicken.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah,
so you know who sent that? Is it you're allergic to chicken? Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so
I mean,
weird.
It's a very small group of people possible that said that, because most people have no clue I'm allergic to chicken. Now, which one? I don't know.
Oh man. Okay, that was just a question. I thought it was kind of a strange question. Somebody thought maybe you know who.
Somebody knows I'm allergic to chicken, and that's why they.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, for sure. No, I get it. I was like, that's a strange question. I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I covered most of the ones after that. These are just kind of the silly ones. We talked about recreation venues. I guess international involvement would be my last question, because I really like that component that PSL is bringing to the table. Obviously, bigger promotions should always be a part of the global scene now. You mentioned Norway, of course, working with promoters, even from Paris, I guess. Is that the what promotion is that? Is that the Ultimate Strongman promotion?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say working with them, so to see. I'm reaching out, but whether I can get a hold of them or not, which I'm sure I can figure out how to.
Yeah.
Recognizing that show is an amazing show. Like, who places there is among the best in the world. Would love to have them.
Yeah.
There's some other ones like that too, but yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm only talking international. There's some stuff in America too, but like as far as international goes, I mean, it's hard to have the best in the world when you don't have a way for the rest of the world to get here.
Well, and that is the true enigma of the sport right now, because even when we see somebody like Meg Lotta traveling to the 64s, I mean, boy, that we love the Australians International. We love what they're doing out there. That group is really, along with others in that southern hemisphere, are bringing strong
Right.
men and strong women to a higher scene. How do we reach those athletes? You mentioned China a little earlier or ago under your breath. Can you give us a little more insight on that, kind of the thought, what's going on there? Not any necessarily guaranteed details, but what are you looking at?
Yeah, there's a solid group of people over there looking to grow the sport in China, and
Wow.
naturally, weight classes in China are a big deal. So what I've been told they're looking for is like an avenue, like come do this show in China, but what does it get you, right? And like working with them to provide some of that opportunity and helping us grow, but then helping them grow and
Yeah.
being in the forefront of what's going on in China is a great proposition to help the sport grow. I mean, that's a massive market.
Hey, there's a billion people over there. I mean, there's got to be some strong men and strong women, for
Well,
God's
dude, there's
sake.
people
So,
that just love lifting weights over there. There's a lot of people.
absolutely.
It's a thing over there. And
Yeah.
I love the group, the people that are doing it over there. They're great,
Yeah.
great people. They're doing it right.
Yeah,
Um,
that's an untapped market for sure. Boy, wouldn't that be interesting? Hey, if you need a liaison to be your Southern Hemisphere liaison or your Far East liaison, I'll take that role. Just per diem and travel is all I'm asking for. So, as you take over the world here, yeah, I think that's super cool. I love the fact that we can connect all these faraway places. Not the easiest thing to do. Obviously, that's why it's so important that organizations like yourself and others like try to make it more accessible for these athletes to assist them to get their prize money, things of that nature. I know that's a topic for another day as well, but you guys are doing a great job of that already. You understand the need for that in the sport, and certainly the per diem and the housing and all that kind of stuff too comes into play there, because we can't expect these people to take out part-time jobs to be professional strong people, so to speak. So I know that's on the top of your mind, and we'll get to all that stuff. I'll leave that as a hanging question a bit for another interview with you, but give us a little bit of a press on the next show for PSL.
yeah, the next show is the Masters. We got July 8th in Columbia, Missouri. It's got some we got 40s, men 40s, men 50s, and you got women's Masters. Man, I can't wait to see it, dude. I love seeing you guys. You're into the
Shut
part of your
up.
life where most of the people like your age aren't doing nothing, right? And you
Yeah,
guys
that's true.
get stronger and stronger. And I've actually only watched Travis Ortmeyer compete in person once, so I'm
Oh my
excited for
God.
that. I'm excited, dude.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be around Chad and his team and learn from them. They do a great
Yes.
job.
Yeah.
Having some of our sponsors out there like Barefoot, Wolfpack, they'll be there. So furthering that relationship, it's got a Brian Shaw seminar attached to it, which I just learned is only $40.
Yeah. No, I knew that for a bit now. That's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah.
I didn't know it was only $40.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I learned it was $40, I'm like, where do I get $40 to?
Yeah.
I'm super pumped for that. And then, we got a little bit of a break, and then the 80 kilogram guys out in LA. Definitely cannot wait for that. There's some
Yeah,
really cool.
and I think that's an interesting demographic in the United States for us, right? Because we're so East Coast heavy in our sport. At least we think we are. Anything east of the Mississippi, we think we own it over here, right? But there's a huge untapped sort of contingency over in California that I need to give more love to as well. Now, of course, I'm a bit political when it comes to that state. Don't get me wrong, but I love the strong men and strong women despite that. But I certainly think that having you represent from coast to coast is really key to the cohesiveness of United States, obviously, but everywhere from
Yeah,
boundaries out. So that's awesome, especially if those people maybe who are coming from Australia for that show, or maybe eventually from Asia and stuff. That's an easier experience for them to be a part of.
definitely. And the team out there with like Nick and his team, like I'll work with them until the end of time, man. They're great.
Yeah.
I can't say enough nice things. And instead of Jacob asking about men's way, he lives out there. He could talk about it.
Yeah, well, I think that's great, right? It opens up different personalities in our sport that we all need to recognize, that some of us already do, but we want others to come out and enjoy them as well. So great. So those are the next two then. And then, of course, East Coast is going to be right around the corner. I mentioned those two sites. I think Virginia and Baltimore as well coming up. Okay. And outside of that, you're always looking to grow the calendar. I know that. Include more people in the production and get more competitions on the board. So we all appreciate that, Tyler. Hey, man, thanks for coming on with me today. The hot seat we called. It wasn't really that hot. It was kind of the warm seat today because, I did enjoy that show. Again, being more than nitpicky, but, let's beat the answers to the questions, I guess you can say. And we did a good job of that today. So thanks for coming on with me. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, man, I appreciate being on here, Joe. it's great just to be able to answer some questions that people are having and get more information out there about Pro Strongman League. And the future's bright and can't wait.
Absolutely. I concur. So
the only other thing I'll say is we may next year may involve the 73 weight class. We're looking into that. So throwing it out there.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that in the next show because there are some concerns, right, to include everybody and how you're going to do it. I've got some of those questions, but despite that, and I'm going to advocate for the open men eventually too. I want you to know that. So
I'm sure you will.
Get ready for that. Yeah.
We got an open man on the team. It's already being advocated.
Exactly. Bobby's like, what the fuck's going on here? You better include these guys. We need more representation there. We'll save that for another day. Thanks, Tyler, for joining me today. Look forward to the next show, talking to you after that.
Absolutely. Sounds good, man.
All right. Thanks, man.
That's it.